الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair for inviting me to speak about this. So I so I was a teacher on one of the Balagh Academy courses, which was to do with LGBTQ and RSE, sex education in schools, the Islamic approach. And I think it's really interesting that Balagh approached me and other speakers to cover this topic, because this topic is something that's on the minds of parents, but it's parents find it difficult to approach the tools and knowledge and skills to feel confident to speak about these issues. And so one of the approaches that I took in this course and other teachers took in relation to this course was to think about the key LGBTQ narratives that underpin this particular worldview. And it was really interesting because I think we had quite a few speakers who had different approaches to this subject. And it sought to give parents a perspective on this subject to deliver them some level of confidence to speak about this. So for example, my first session, which is really interesting, was I was asked, and I've never been asked to do this before because I've been speaking about these type of issues for the last 15 years within the Muslim community, but I've never been approached to think about the particular trajectory that has led to where we are today. So so at one point in time in human history, LGBTQ identities was seen as a set of behaviors which was considered abnormal. And now we're at a situation, at a stage where it's an identity rather than a behavior, and it's considered to be not only normal, but it should be seen to be celebrated by everybody. No matter what your background is, you have to celebrate that particular set of identities. And so I did a lot of research into almost a historical timeline, key events that took place throughout history around LGBTQ identities, and what led to a stage of from rejection to acceptance. And that, for me, that was a very interesting exercise. And then the feedback was quite good from the students. And I think the really interesting perspective was that, and I asked lots of the students on this particular program, what is there an Islamic perspective on LGBTQ? What does Islam have to say about it? And I've always said very staunchly about this particular question that Islam has nothing to say about LGBTQ, and that may come as a surprise to lots of people. But if we understand and dissect what LGBTQ identities are, they are essentially a set of identities, and there is no understanding of identities from an Islamic perspective, because identities is a very modern perspective, a modern idea, an idea that there are some intrinsic parts of a human being, some discrete parts of a human being that are so ingrained within a human being that we call them an identity, not a behavior. And so it underpins the whole view towards LGBTQ, that in the West there's an idea that these aren't behaviors, these are identities which are ingrained within a human being. They can't be changed. And we're not talking about the gay gene. We're talking about the idea of an identity that is so a part of who a person is, that if you say to a person you can change, that's like asking somebody who is dark skinned to change their skin color. So essentially, one of the things that I try to elaborate upon in the program again and again, because this comes to the heart of what the LGBTQ paradigm is based upon, is that when we understand behaviors, we understand the people of Qawm Lut undertook a behavior which they were punished for, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala severely punished the people for. So we understand it as a behavior, but most other people understand it as an unchanging identity. And so sometimes we are at cross purposes with the use of LGBTQ terminology, where we understand it to be one thing and the rest of society understands it to be another thing. And so from my perspective, I think I wanted to get across the importance of conveying the point of Islam doesn't speak about issues like identities. It speaks about behaviors, very clearly what behaviors are acceptable or not, but it doesn't speak about identities, which is a very modern concept. And so I was very happy to join this Balagh course, and I think it was actually quite a unique course at the time. And one thing that really struck me was the students who joined the course and who participated in the course, and we tried to make the course as very interactive as possible, as interactive as it could possibly be. You know, the ability of the students to understand and respond to quite complex ideas was very impressive for me. So we discussed these ideas that sometimes when I discuss these ideas, it takes a very long time for people to understand them, conceptualize them, and try to understand how they fit into a practical lens in terms of how do I discuss this with my children. And so when for example at the end of the first session, we asked people to input on their three things that they learned from the session. I was so impressed by almost a summary of the session, to the level where I believed and I understood that those people who attended the session actually understood very deep concepts within a 1.5 hour session. And then at the end of the session, we did that activity again and asked people to input on the top 3 learning outcomes that they achieved from the entire course. And I was really blown away by the level of the input, and by the way in which I could tell people had not only comprehended sometimes very detailed and very complex topics, but also how much they'd seen the practical aspect of those courses of the program. And that's why I think I don't want to take too much of the time of the participants, a lot of speakers today, but I'd really like to commend Balagh for running this course, running this program, because there's very few organizations who'll be willing to tackle a topic such as this, which could be considered contentious or controversial. So the fact that Balagh allows this platform, and I've seen that the other courses that Balagh have run, and I've actually attended some myself. I just had to say that it's a really important platform within our community to engage academically in a whole host of different topics, and including this topic that I was was a teacher on part of the program. And I just like to say, firstly, Jazakumullah khair for all the students for how much they engaged with the topic and how much they applied themselves to understand sometimes deeply complex topics, but also to Balagh for facilitating that. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen Balagh in the years to come, so that they can do not only this type of course, but other courses that are very contemporary topics, modern topics which are which parents and other Muslims in general want some guidance on, and then they provide that platform and that opportunity to provide guidance to our community. So Jazakumullah khairan to Balagh and to all the students, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect this institution and support it in the years to come. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.